Hello, good morning, 'tis me. Well, it's the first time for everything, isn't there? And this is going to be a first time. So normally I write my stuff, you know, my sort of like little things that come. And today I thought that I'd have a go at speaking it out and seeing if I can get into the same sort of speak flow as I do as a writing flow. So I can't even remember what the first flipping thing was. So the way that my writing starts, this might be really useful to speak about, is that as the first sentence comes, it just comes, and then I start to write from there. So I'll give it a go. So I like the idea that thoughts are simply borrowed. That thoughts are a bit like sentences that are floating around in the universe, and that they either come into us or we catch hold of them. And then the choice is to whether we keep hold of them. Because if you think about it, there's there's no unique thought. Every thought is like floating around waiting for a person to notice it and bring it in. And then as a result of those thoughts, we then go into feelings. And if you hang on to your thoughts, how they take you into a space for your day. And the power of those thoughts. But I like the idea that we think it and then decide whether we keep it or not as a thought. This borrowed little thing or big thing that comes in. So I imagine all these thoughts just floating around in the atmosphere everywhere as a little bit like unique little things of their own. And we just decide whether we bring them in and have them for our day or for a moment even. And you know, I'm getting better at not capturing them and holding them, because I know that they're very transient, thoughts. And then once I've had the thought, I think, I'll let that one go. Let somebody else have that one. I don't want that one today. I prefer to have, what's the next thought that's going to come? Because they're never ending, aren't they, these thoughts? They're just like, and like I put in the recent post, they are like conversations with the universe. And my thoughts aren't mine. You know, I might think they're mine, but they're not. They're just borrowed. That's the way I like to, when I remember, that's the way I like to see them. As these sort of like, you know, those things that hang on to planes, at the back of planes, and those sort of banners that planes used to, I don't know if they still do it, but anyway, used to have, they're a bit like that. They're sort of like that sort of idea floating around. And so when somebody said to me that thoughts and feelings aren't real, I thought, yeah, right. And they're not, are they really? They're sort of things that I make meaning of. The things that you make meaning of, maybe. You know, the thoughts that we have, the feelings that we have. Like you get a feeling and you think, what's all this about? What does this mean? Why am I feeling like this? Oh, why am I feeling like this? You know, and if we just realised that actually feelings are just like thoughts, they're transient, they're in the moment, some of them, unless we hang on to them. And sometimes it's good to hang on to them, you know? It's like when you're grieving, it's really good to sort of like acknowledge. I love that saying that I've read somewhere, you know, I am with sadness today. It's not I am sad, it's I am with sadness today. As if these things are part of us that come visit us, and we can choose to hang out with them for as short a time or as long a time I love those thoughts that come and you think, yeah, I've had that one so many times. Off you trot, little thought. Goodbye. Thank you for visiting and reminding me not to think about you too much. Yeah, I see them as like little beings. It's the way that I've created it, you know, and it seems to work, you know, seeing them as like little things that I don't always remember. I get lost in my thoughts, I get lost in my feelings, and yeah, it just feels good to have that sense of thinking that they are transient, they're just visitors. I can choose whether to do a dance with them. And I'm talking a little bit like that they're all, I'm sort of talking as if those are negative, and they aren't really negative, they're just part of the portfolio of thoughts and feelings. And so those ones that I really love, you know, the ones that we really love, you sort of clutch them, don't you? You sort of hang on to them. You think, can I make this feeling stay? Can I make this thought stay? And we can't. It goes. And that's, you know, I think for me that's the lovely part about being human, that there's this wave. Sometimes it's huge wave. Sometimes it's just a little, tiny little roller. And that for me is like, I recognise I have a huge portfolio of feelings and thoughts, and how awful for everybody else if these thoughts are just sort of like entities in the atmosphere, which is the way I like to think of them. How awful and how selfish for us to hang on to them, because somebody else might want them. And I know we pass our thoughts on in sort of words and deeds and expressions and stuff like that, you know, and we are all in the mix together, aren't we? We are all connected, you know. And somebody will share their thoughts with me and I think, oh, yeah, those are sort of thoughts I want to have, or do I want different thoughts? Or it's fascinating when you sort of put it in like this, you know, this sort of exploring what are thoughts and feelings, because they're the drivers for life. They really are. You know, they're what we think is what we then, from that place of thinking, we then go into, well, I do, you might be different, but I do. From that place of thinking, I then go into my behaviours, sort of reflect my thoughts, and then that creates results in my life. And I know from a long time ago that the thoughts that I think about what's going to happen generally do. I'm getting a bit wiser with that, because I'm thinking, Sunday, don't be thinking like that, because you're sort of putting it out into the order. You're putting it on the, I don't know why, but do you remember the generation game? You're putting it onto the conveyor belt. And you're going to get delivered what you think is going to, you know. And mostly, I suppose, when we're with our sad, our thoughts tend to be less, they're always creative, just less creative of what we would really want for ourselves, not what we think is going to happen. So thoughts and feelings, transient, borrowed, shared. Yeah. Do you want to catch somebody else's thoughts? You know, when you watch people walking on the street and you think, well, if you're like me, you do, you think, what are they thinking about? What's their life about? You know, sometimes I do that. And can you imagine if all our thoughts were like little bubbles above us that I've seen little video clips where people have done that, you know. And do you want to borrow somebody else's thoughts if you could see them or feel them? And I think we do, you know, picking up on people's energies and, you know, that in that relational way, you know, with other human beings, and being playful with each other. You know, when you, I have this thing now when yeah, to talk to people, you know, people I don't know. I had some wonderful conversations yesterday, and I'm not always in that space, you know. Sometimes I'm head down like everybody else, ignoring contact because something's going on for me and I just don't feel like connecting. And yet I always am, you know. But I love it when I'm in those thought places where, you know, being adventurous, being brave, sometimes being brave. Because there's nothing like, you know, when somebody's grumpy, you sort of pick up on that and you either avoid them or pretend. You know, how many times have you pretended not to see people? Have you, like me, gone down in the supermarket or the store, depending which country you're in, with your trolley, with your cart, depending on which country you're in, and you've seen somebody and you think, oh goodness, I don't really want to talk to them today, I don't want to see them today, and you tell me I'm not alone. Yeah, thoughts and feelings. Thoughts are the absolute drivers of our life, and yet a lot of us, me included, have huge amounts of automaticity. How the hell did I say that? Automaticity around our thoughts. They're often very repetitive. They're the same old, same old. Sometimes they're comforting even when they're not pleasant thoughts. They're the known, aren't they? And yet they're the ones that make us who we are. So I'm going to remember today that thoughts are transient, that I don't have to hang on to them. They're not mine, they're shared. They're in this big universe that's full of ones that I've not even thought yet. Can I have some new... Oh, God, am I putting that into the universe? Can I have some new thoughts, please? New thoughts needed here. And then I'll have new behaviours, new feelings. Are there any more feelings left to feel in me, I wonder? God, aren't we a mystery? Like an unearthed, underused mystery. We have no idea of what we are and what we're capable of, and yeah. On that note, I'm going to go. Have a lovely day, and I'll speak to you soon. Lots of love. Bye now.